Hello, and welcome to our Arts and Communication Career Pathways information session. My name is Mary Beulah, and I am the director of Erie Together, which is a countywide movement heavily focused on helping more students become successful adults. Through my role, I facilitate the Erie County Career Pathways Alliance, which is a group of local school districts, employers, universities, and workforce developers, all working together to help students prepare for their future and better meet employer needs. Tonight is our fifth information session, each focusing on a different career pathway. For those of you who have joined us, we're really happy you're here. And for students who couldn't participate, we are recording this session to make it available after the event is over. Our goal tonight is to help you understand opportunities in the arts and communication pathway, which includes 3 industry clusters. They are arts, audiovisual technology, and communication. We want to touch on things students can do to help prepare for careers, highlight some relevant jobs, and give you the opportunity to learn from our panelists' experience. Now, we've assembled a great team of speakers to share their insight, and we hope that you ask them whatever questions you may have while you're here. We've structured tonight's session pretty tightly, and we're going to start with introductions and an industry insight presentation from Janet Anderson of Northwest PA Job Connect, which is our public workforce system. We will then turn to our panelists with a series of questions we've developed and others you pose. If you have any questions you'd like to submit, please type them into the chat so we can raise them for you. Please understand that if you're here and can hear us, your technology is working. And here are some additional things you should know to help ensure tonight's session goes well. First of all, panelists, please make sure your camera is turned on and your microphone is muted, and remember to unmute yourself when you're speaking. Students and families, your cameras and microphones have been disabled. So when you ask a question, you'll use the chat function to do that. And finally, as I mentioned earlier, we are recording this session so we can make it available to schools, students, and families afterwards. So for those of you who may not know, here's how the chat works. The chat feature is in the main bar at the bottom of your screen, and it's labeled chat. When you have a question, please click on the chat button and type it in. If you want to direct your question to a certain panelist, please include their name. But if your question is for anyone, just type it in and we'll take that from there. And finally, we have an hour set aside for this, but if we run out of time, we'll be happy to submit your panelist questions after the event for their response. Now, before we start, let's just have everyone try out their chat. Please type in how many parents are with you for tonight's session, anywhere from 0 on up. Great, thank you. Okay, one last thing before we begin. I just wanted to acknowledge that Jennifer Ponzer, who is director of Erie Together's Career Street program, is on tonight's Zoom with us, and she's monitoring the chat for your questions. Jen, thanks for all your help with this. Okay, it's time to get started. Speakers, please tell us your name and position and a little bit about your background. And I'm going to call on each of you individually, starting with Kate. Kate?
Hi, everybody. So my name is Kate Newbert Lechner. I am the executive director at the Erie Playhouse. I was born here in Erie and actually began performing at the Playhouse. And I initially began a career in performance that has now come full circle as I am gone into theater administration. And my path has taken many different turns along the way, and we'll talk about that, I'm sure, later. But I'm really happy to be here, so thank you so much to Jen and Mary for inviting me.
Thanks, Kate. Morgan?
Hello, everyone. My name is Morgan Raynor. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I was born in Erie. I am now a dancer, a performer, a rehearsal director, and teacher choreographer. And I'm also a business owner. I founded Body Articulate, which is a fitness personal training business in 2019. So when I was growing up in Erie, I danced at Erie Dance Conservatory and Marguerite's Academy of Dance. I studied all around the world And my fitness background is in mostly primarily swimming, competitive swimming.
Thanks, Morgan. Jake.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jacob Bartko, and I am the Executive Director at Community Access Media, also known as CAM Erie. I began my career here back in 2010 as an intern, and over the years, I worked my way up to a production assistant and then the Executive Director in 2014. So I've had an extensive career, primarily just here at CAM Erie, but we have converted from just a traditional public access media station from a public TV station. So happy to be here tonight, and I'm glad to share my experiences with all of you.
Thanks, Jake. And Brian.
Hi there, I'm Brian Sheridan. I'm the chair of the communication department at Mercyhurst University, as well as being a senior lecturer at the university. I've been there 15 years after a 25, 30-year career in broadcast, being a television reporter anchor, born and raised here in Erie, and also continue to be a freelance journalist as a writer for publications. And that's if you have any other questions, I'd be happy to answer them. And thanks for asking me being on this panel tonight.
Thanks, Brian. And Janet.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Janet Anderson. I am the Executive Director of Northwest Pennsylvania Job Connect. We are the local workforce development board covering 6 counties here in Northwest Pennsylvania, including Erie. I have a degree in accounting from Penn State University and have spent very little of my 35-year career in accounting. Most of my accounting has been used in working in government, economic development, workforce development, and other positions in the general area. Thanks, Mary, for the opportunity to be here.
Thank you for being here. Okay, and we're actually going to start with you, Janet. So first question for you is this. Based on local data and your experience, could you please share your insights on local employment opportunities, employer needs, and skills that employers are really interested in?
Sure, thanks for the question. We are most often known as the Pennsylvania Career Link. Our role is to help people find employment that provides a living wage and the opportunity to grow skills within their chosen career pathway. In addition, we help local employers find a skilled workforce. We work with adults, dislocated workers, out-of-school youth, in-school youth, and employers. One of the most important tools that we provide is labor market information, and we provide that to both the job seeker and the employer. So what is labor market information? It's data that shows the number of open positions, the entry-level wage or salary, and also the wage or salary for someone that has experience. We also share the training that is required to get into a specific occupation and where you are able to find that training locally. Labor market information is used by our local employers to see what others are paying for similar positions so that they remain competitive in the wages that they offer. We have careers in the arts and communication pathway right here in Erie. We also have local training available in Erie. Our training ranges from work experience or on-the-job training to PhD and everything in between. Wages and salaries range from $15,000 to over $100,000, depending on the occupation pathway that you choose. We maintain a list of in-demand occupations in Pennsylvania that is developed by the state and shows opportunities right here in Erie as well as in the state in general. A few of the occupations that would be available in this career pathway include choreographers, dancers, painters, photographers, TV and radio announcers, web developers, desktop publishers, actors, audio and visual equipment technicians, interpreters and translators, camera operators, producers and directors, film and video editors, telecommunication line installers, just to name a few. This pathway requires a unique set of skills or qualities with an opportunity to grow into other industries if you choose. You will hear more about many of these exciting occupations and the training required from our expert panelists in a few minutes. So as a high school student, what can you do right now to prepare for this exciting occupation? Remember that 25% of your adult life will be spent at work. Know what it is that you like to do so that you like what you do. Having money will only make you happy for a short time if you are working all the time and don't like that work. Money can't buy you happiness, they say. Financial literacy is really important. Learning how to save money so that you have enough in an emergency in case your car breaks down or for that spontaneous vacation that you might take. If you're working to pay the bank every other week, you stop enjoying the work that you're doing. It becomes a burden. During this time, you should explore. Try things to determine what it is that you do like. Participate in internships, co-ops, a part-time job, a team, a sports club, volunteer. These are great ways to learn leadership skills, responsibility, and teamwork. Get out of your comfort zone. You'll learn things about yourself that you didn't know about you. Career Street is a great resource for you to do job shadowing, find an internship, hear a speaker. Take advantage of these opportunities right now while you're still in school. Learn to listen. Listen to your mentors. Who are your mentors? They're your teachers, friends, your friends' parents, a boss, grandparents, your neighbors, your pastor. If it weren't for my mentors, I would not be doing what I'm doing today. I'd probably be sitting in an office doing accounting. And I love the job that I do. Your parents are a great resource and they always have your best interest in mind, but they may not know you and what you really like as well as some of your other mentors. So make sure to take time and listen to everyone. Employees that move up in an organization are often those individuals that are willing to continue to learn and try new things. Initiative and drive will separate you from the others in the same occupation. As you grow older, family balance will be important in order to maintain that happy work environment for yourself. Honesty and integrity are key. Make sure to own your own work. Be on time every day. Come to work ready and able to work. Be engaged in what you're doing and do your best. And remember that every position is important in the company. So what skills are employers looking for? They're looking for basic skills, math, communication, verbal, reading, writing. So again, take advantage of the opportunity that school presents to each of you. And Career Street is one of those opportunities that allows you to learn more about yourself and explore careers. You can explore virtually, in person, meet people in your field of interest right now while you're still in school. If we learn nothing this year, we found really important. Look at us tonight on Zoom. Most of you in school are doing some remote learning. It's really important that you take time now to take a class so that you can learn more about virtual learning and digital literacy. You may be required to do a virtual job interview or participate in a virtual job fair to get your first job. Discipline is another thing that we really saw become important this year. When employees were sent home, they needed to make sure that they were getting up on time, doing their work when they were supposed to, and not being distracted while at home. You all have been learning that quality as well as you do your remote learning. Employers often say that they can train most of the technical skills or are willing to help pay for them in a good employee. So who is a good employee? Well, they're looking for leaders, creative thinkers, people with initiative, a strong work ethic. And again, if you like what you do, it's a lot easier to be engaged and have those qualities. Remember to take time to invest in you. Continuous learning is important. Don't take the easy way out. Always push yourself. Do your best and own your work. Don't be afraid to fail or change your mind. Reflect if you've failed and learn from your mistake. Make a plan to not let it happen again. If you follow these things, you will be successful in whatever career you select. Thank you, Mary, for the opportunity.
Thanks, Janet. Okay, so now we are going to turn to to our panelists with some of our questions. And Jen, did we have any questions for Janet from the chat?
There aren't any questions right now.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, so Kate, we're going to turn to you. And my first question for you is this. Much of your background has focused in the performing arts. You majored in musical theater in college. You've taught voice and dance in a variety of settings. You've been a choreographer, and you were even a voiceover artist for more than a decade. Most recently, though, as you said in your introduction, you've taken more administrative roles, including your current position as executive director at the Erie Playhouse. What have you learned about the variety of careers in the arts through your journey, first as a performer and now as an administrator, that it's important for students today to understand?
Well, as you said, I mean, there are such a wide variety of roles and positions available within the arts. You know, I did begin my career as a performer and wanted to get into that. And while I was living in New York City, I fell into a temp job for the singer Tony Bennett, working for his company that turned into a full-time position. And through my work there, I really saw so many of the different avenues that were open to an artist within, you know, the administrative side of things. So I would say, you know, to really for students, especially that are interested in the arts, to really always make sure you're keeping your options open. Making sure that, you know, you understand that just because you have a fixed view right now of what you think you want to do, there are so many different pathways that could open up along the way. And also, the great thing I think about our industry especially, and I think this is something you can hear from all of the panelists, is that things are always changing, things are always growing, there's always new technology that's being added in that can enhance what we can offer from a performance angle. So there are new jobs being created in our field, especially now, like coming out of the pandemic, I think, and during the pandemic, I think we found that there have been so many different roles that have been created with the way that we're tapping in now to digitally distributing performances and classes and all that kind of stuff. So it's just an ever-changing kind of landscape that's really exciting.
Great, thank you. Second question for you. What are some of the more promising opportunities for students interested in arts-related careers if they want to make their living in Erie? And what do you believe will be important to their success?
Well, I think a lot of the careers that are available in Erie, if they're specifically looking at wanting to be in the performing arts, there are not, you know, we're a smaller community, so there aren't as many as there would be in a larger market, say even if they were in Pittsburgh or Cleveland. But I think the important thing to really focus on is versatility. Because we are talking about smaller organizations, it's important, we want to hire staff members that are versatile, that aren't just, you know, one track mind, one lane mind. You know, so to kind of learn everything that you can about the field that you're interested in so that you can provide expertise in sort of other ways. You can say, yeah, you know, maybe I was hired to, you know, to be a business manager. Maybe I was hired to watch the books, but also I understand how to produce a show, so I can help weigh in here and things like that. So I think really just focusing on learning everything that you can about the entire field is going to be a great way to make yourself marketable.
Okay, thank you, Kate. And the third question I have for you is, what opportunities can middle and high school students pursue to grow their artistic talents or explore their interests? How important is a focus on traditional academic subjects to their future?
I mean, your academics are always going to be important because a degree is always going to be helpful. But if you're looking to expand, hopefully your schools are offering you opportunities within the performing arts there. But if not, and even if they are, I would say reach out. At the Playhouse, we offer internships in a variety of different ways. You could be a production intern and work in sets and costumes. You could be an administrative intern and work with me or work with our marketing director. And then also we have opportunities for volunteer performers. Our organization is entirely volunteer run, or entirely volunteers perform, work backstage. We love to be able to provide opportunities, especially through our youth theater program. Our focus is really to make sure that program is completely run top to bottom by kids. So when we're in full swing, we have kids who are on stage, backstage, stage managing the shows, running our lights, running our sound. Everything from top to bottom is run by kids. So we're really trying to provide opportunities for you to find your footing and find your niche and get things started before going to college.
Great, thank you, Kate. Jen, do we have any questions in the chat for Kate?
Nothing direct right now, Mary.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Morgan, we're going to move on to you. So my first question is, you are a Fairview graduate now living in California, and you've built a really unique career, both as a professional dancer and an entrepreneur who started a successful personal training business. How did you make the decision to build your career around these two different but very big jobs? And what does it take to make it all work?
Thank you. So I made this decision based on many things. Number one being that I knew from a very young age that I did not want to work in an office. I had no interest in, working at a desk. So I knew I wanted to pursue something that would that I could, use my creative side a little bit more and not really be tied down by the 9-to-5 kind of thing. I didn't decide I wanted to specifically pursue dance until I was a teenager. But once I did, I started researching, how do professional dancers live their life? How do they, where do they live? Who do they work for? What kind of things do they do? And I started realizing that a lot of them have side jobs. So a lot of dancers, and I was, I had my sights set on New York City. So a lot of dancers have jobs working in like hospitality and service, serving at a restaurant or working at a bar. And I, as I was, learning all of this, I decided that I would, if I wanted to be a dancer, I wanted to do something on the side that kind of complemented my dance. So I wanted to do something with movement. I found a deep passion for fitness. And so I, thought that I might possess the abilities to teach others that same passion and share some insight into movement. So I, while I was living in New York, I started working in fitness and made more connections and here and there, and eventually became a personal trainer and decided to take that into my own business, mostly so I could have a flexible schedule. So I could create my own schedule around my performance and rehearsal schedule. So what all of that takes, in my experience, I've picked out a few qualities. Number one being develop relationships. Number two being hold yourself accountable. And number three, love what you do. So number one, developing relationships. I know I'll probably sound like a broken record here, but it really is all about who you know. I think in my professional dance career, I lived in New York until this past July. So I just moved out here to California. So directly from, I went to SUNY Purchase, the Conservatory of Dance there. So directly from Purchase in 2013, when I graduated, I moved straight to Manhattan. And, you know, while being in New York, I think 95% of my jobs were through connections and not auditions. So maybe 5% I got from, you know, walking into an audition, not really knowing anybody, and coming out with a contract. And the other 95% were like someone hitting me up saying like, I like the way that you dance and I really am interested in incorporating you in this project. And the same thing in fitness. I started, like I said, my side jobs were all in fitness. I worked at boutique fitness studios, and I coached swimming. And then by the time I got my personal training certification, I already had a job lined up. So I already had somebody ready to hire me. So this was all, you know, through talking about wanting to become a trainer, kind of like speaking it into existence sort of thing. So number two, holding yourself accountable. When you want to pursue a career in the arts, and when you want to start your own business, you're really betting on yourself. And when you bet on yourself, you have to define your self expectations and then live up to them. So I defined my self expectations by articulating my purpose, my strengths, and my values, and putting those all together so that if I'm, you know, trying to make a decision, a career decision, I'm, you know, I stay on the right path. So it helped me to get organized. Organization is a huge part of this, holding yourself accountable. You know, you can ask yourself or say to yourself, oh, if I do this, if I put in this amount of work, then I have time to go to this rehearsal. Or if I, you know, schedule my budget or schedule my work around my budget, and I make sure I can pay rent this month, and I can afford to do, you know, this other thing. So if I can do this, then I can do this, just organizing your life in that way. And if you can organize and schedule your schedule and your priorities, then you'll be able to accomplish great things. With that, holding yourself accountable, you also, just like Kate was saying, you have to realize that nothing is ever going to go as it's planned exactly. If you think about, you know, a great example is the pandemic right now. I'm choreographing a solo right now that is being commissioned by a company in New York, but I'm creating it out here, and it's all going to be premiered virtually. You know, so anybody around the world can watch it. And that's just the way that the dance and performance industry is going right now because of the pandemic. And the same thing with my personal training business. I'm not training anybody in person right now. Everything is virtual. So I meet on Zoom or FaceTime, and I'm proud to say that the quality of my sessions has not diminished because we're not personally like in person together. So that, you know, being able to pivot is a huge part of holding yourself accountable. And then the last part, loving what you do. I think anybody here that pursues a career in the arts, starts their own business, can say that they put in a lot of time, a lot more than their peers, like a lot more than like a 40-hour job, or, you know, something that you are paid to do that you don't love, just like Janet was saying earlier. You know, you give up a lot of stuff, you sacrifice a lot of stuff. And, you know, if you spend the vast majority of your time doing something you love, you're going to be more satisfied than drained at the end of the day.
Thanks. And so you mentioned the need to pivot, and I'm going to have to do that right now because you essentially just answered my second question, but I'm really intrigued by something you said. And so I think you said that you really realized you wanted to become a professional dancer in school. Is that accurate?
Sorry, you broke up there for one sec.
You realized, that's okay. You realized you wanted to become a professional dancer when you were in high school?
Yes. So I dance. I have been dancing since I was 4, I believe. And, gradually got more and more into it, was obsessed, like nothing short of that. I was just crazy about dancing all the time, all day, every day. And I was really kind of unsure of myself. I didn't know any professional dancers. I didn't know that it was, a valid career choice. So I was working with a choreographer at Erie Dance Conservatory, and I was the lead in his piece. And he asked me one day, I was like 13 or 14, I think. And he asked me if I was gonna go away to college to be a dancer, and if I wanted to pursue that. And I was just kind of like, oh, I don't know. I don't know if I can. I don't know if I can do that. And he was like, well, why not? I think that you can. And so I then realized, I was like, well, if he thinks that I can do it, then maybe I can do it. So that's when I started really researching and looking into what a dance career might look like. And eventually, took his advice. So that's when it really started. 13,
Gotcha.
14.
Gotcha. So another question I have for you is, you talked about getting most of your opportunities not through our audition, but through who you know. What do you think is key to networking success? Like, how have you been able to do that?
Well, it's a bunch of different things. It's easier now with social media. But when I was in high school and in college, it wasn't a huge way of I think professional communication. It was more for like friends to communicate. But now you can find more professional connections that way. So let's see. So one example would be I used to aspire to be in this company in New York City. And so I would follow the company around and take company classes and workshops. So I would go, with the little money I had, I would get a train ticket from Purchase and go down to Manhattan and take classes. And one day at the end of the class, I asked the artistic director of this company if he would choreograph my senior project solo. I was a junior in college. I was about to be a senior. So I just went up to him at the end. I don't even know if he knew my name at that point. And I just, based on what he had seen in class, I was like, I'm about to be a senior at Purchase. I would like you to choreograph a solo for me for my senior project next year. Is that possible? And he literally was like, yeah, sure. So we exchanged emails, and like, that was that. And so from that experience, I, then was able to perform his work. The director of the Conservatory of Dance at Purchase liked my performance from my senior project, and then enabled me to perform it in the city a few months after my senior project. So then I got even more exposure from there. And then, that connection also led to me meeting all of the dancers in the company. So one of those dancers, Dave Alois Farron, who is now no longer with the company, started her own company in 2014. And I was her first dancer in that company. So because of that connection, she asked me to be a part of her company. And now I've been dancing with her since the very beginning, and I'm now the rehearsal director of that company. So that's just one example where it kind of spiraled into, a full dance career, just because I asked, I was brave and I asked one question.
Wow, that's a really great lesson. That's really good. I have one more question for you, and then I see we have a question for you too. So here's my question, and then we're going to turn to the chat. I'd imagine your career aspirations were different than most of the people you went to high school with. And what was it like to have a non-conventional path as compared to your high school peers? What advice would you give young people in a similar situation?
Okay, so yes, that is true. Yes, like I said before, you're betting on yourself. So you might receive some harsh pushback because it's different. And you might also receive tempting opportunities that give you an easy way out of this, more challenging lifestyle and career choice. So for instance, I received pushback from my high school teachers that thought I should pursue a higher level math or science. And it's funny because I actually ended up for my senior project in college choreographing based on an Albert Einstein quote that actually bridges the similarities between science and art. So I ended up bringing some science and math back into my senior project. But I also received pushback from my peers and my friends. You know, a lot of people when I was in high school said that, oh, dance is not a real major. You know, it's like, how are you going to create a career in dance? And I will say that even though I didn't dance with a lot of my school friends, I was the only one in my school that was really this serious about dance. I had dance friends. So I had my community at my studio of all of the dancers that were just like me, that went through the same sort of thing. So they were also pursuing a career in dance. They also, you know, spent their summers away from home and spent hours and hours in the studio. They also didn't have time for, you know, a full or a part-time job. You know, they didn't have time to go to birthday parties or ski club and all of these things that you have to sacrifice for your craft. So having that community was really, really helpful. And it helped me feel that I wasn't alone, that there were others going through the same thing as me. And the same with the fitness industry. I will say, even within, you know, my dancer circle, I have this like crazy work ethic. You know, I had these like goals that I wanted to achieve. I wanted to be, you know, make a difference in the fitness world too. So a lot of my friends and colleagues in the dance world are, you know, kind of like, why are you working so hard? Why are you up at 4 o'clock in the morning every day to go to work? And then you work after rehearsal, and then, you know, you work on weekends. And then, you know, my fitness community, who was also going through the same thing, was able to help me through that and let me know that I wasn't alone there as well. So those communities really, really help when you're receiving a lot of pushback. And even those, you know, those tempting opportunities, you know, like I was presented with a few full-time jobs and salaries with benefits that I, you know, had the strength to turn down. Not saying that those are bad things, but for me, for my goals personally, I, you know, was able to say no and bet on myself and really, you know, push through so that I can have the same life. I can still, you know, I can still pay my bills, and I can still live a full life, even though I don't have, you know, the security of salary. And I will say that, you know, the best thing that you can do if you're feeling that pushback is to just succeed and prove that you can do it. So it's to come back and say, I can do it. I did it. I made it. And, you know, even though you doubted me.
Great. Okay, one last thing for you coming from the chat.
Okay.
Why did Morgan want to begin being a dancer in the first place? Like, what gave her the idea, and what gave her the idea to teach people that?
Okay, so my parents put me in dance when I was 3 or 4, and I started doing the tap and ballet like combination classes, and I really loved it. It came really naturally for me. You know, I really liked being on stage. I really liked the complexity of dance, and the more that I did, the more that I practiced, the more I wanted to learn. So my passion only grew with my experience. So eventually, you know, I got into doing more and more ballet. So I found ballet extremely, extremely challenging and stimulating. I loved watching ballet. I loved doing ballet, and you know, I just dreamed about it all the time. And then I learned about modern dance, I mean, it just exploded. You know, that was like really, really where I found myself really thrive. So yes, it came naturally. I had a deep passion for it right away. And I will say, like, yeah, the more that I learned about it, the more I wanted to keep going. That's not to say I didn't have bad days, but yeah, I pushed through. It was great. My training in my youth was probably, you know, one of the best parts of my dance career.
That's great.
And the last part of the question was,
What made you decide to teach?
okay. Well, that's interesting. I taught because I always learned something. So I kind of fell into teaching. I feel like a lot of dancers do that. Someone came up and asked if I would teach at a summer program at the Martha Graham School. And I said yes. And every time I taught, I learned something new. So I think that it was really, cool that I found that I was able to share with my students, and they were also able to share things with me. So I have most of my teaching experience with high school and collegiate level dancers. And the same thing happens every time I teach. So the more I got into it, the more that I learned from my dancers. And so I just really love that back and forth and that feedback.
Okay, great. Thank you, Morgan. Jake, I'm going to turn to you. My first question for you is, you're the Executive Director of Community Access Media, or CAM Erie. What does CAM Erie do, and how did your education and experience prepare you to become Executive Director of the organization?
Thank you for the question, Mary. So we are Community Access Media, formerly known as CAT TV, and we are a nonprofit community media center located right downtown in Erie. Our mission is really to facilitate and promote local media content production. And we also help people share that content that benefits really the Erie community. We have a media production facility down here on 12th Street where we teach basic production classes. We record local events. We also share all of the local content that's created here on our cable TV and our fiber TV channels, our website, and our social media. Some of the things that we help people create are television shows, podcasts, YouTube videos, social media content, and then we're also going to be installing an esports studio so that people can learn how to do live stream gaming later this year. So I actually have, the second part of that question is I have a degree in accounting and I have a degree in marketing. And I think that both of those have equally really helped me in my role as the executive director here, because not only am I in charge of the finances of the organization, paying the bills and making sure that we can generate revenue through grants and all sorts of things like that, but I also oversee all of the productions and the media that's being created by our staff and our members. So I think both of those experiences really, kind of gave me the understanding on that production side of things and on the finance side of things. For production, I think the marketing background that I have really gave me the experience and understanding that in order to reach different audiences in media, you have to try and see things from their perspective, from your audience's perspective.
So very good. So I'm going to deviate a little bit from the next question I had. You've really spent your entire career there, right?
Absolutely.
So what about you enabled you to move up the ladder, starting from an intern position to now executive director of CAM? Like, what did you do to make you stand out and be able to secure that role?
I think it really stems from my passion for our mission. I really had, when I went to school for accounting, my goal was to become a CPA. And I really say that I'm not a CPA doing the same thing and sitting in office every day. But my internship here when we work at TV really gave me an opportunity to meet all sorts of different people. And those people are passionate. So really the cool part about my job is that I get to, the people in the organizations that walk through our door, they come in with an idea or a passion, and they really want to make that idea come to life. And we give them the opportunity to do that through creating media. So I think that you know, from when I was an intern to when I was hired as a production assistant, I gained a passion for helping people. And I think that's really what has, you know, strived me to move forward within the organization, strived me to really rebuild our organization, from being just a public access TV station to now, you know, creating all forms of different media. I think that, you know, really the people are why I'm here today, to be honest.
Great. I know from personal experience in working with you on events that we've done for the community that that passion really comes out, and your team is really able to make magic out of things that people are trying to accomplish in the community. And so we're very grateful to have your organization as a resource to us. So I just wanted to say that.
Thank you.
Thank you. So my second question for you, Jake, is when you think about audiovisual technology, what career opportunities exist? And then a follow-up to that is what kinds of skills and training are important for careers in this field? And generally speaking, what's the earning potential?
So the audiovisual technology field is extremely vast. You know, there are careers all the way from just being a camera operator at one of our local news stations to being a sound engineer at maybe a recording studio, to creating cartoons, or maybe even owning your own media production company. There really is a wide variety of jobs. It really just depends on you know, what your interests are and what your passion is. You know, depending on what you specialize in, you know, there's a lot of different opportunities at local colleges. There's a lot of different opportunities at colleges outside of Erie. But I really personally think that in the audiovisual industry, experience is really what takes you to that next level. I have an accounting degree. I didn't go to school for film. I didn't go to school for media production. But I really learned a lot of these things by teaching classes, by going through classes, by going on production shoots and out in the field recording. I think really that hands-on experience is really what gets you, you know, the opportunity to hone in your skills, improve your craft, and really just get better in whatever you want to specialize in. Lastly, I think earning potential, that same thing varies depending on what specific job title you want to go into. I think that, you know, if you want to be a camera operator in just like a local TV, you know, production studio, that's anywhere from $20,000 to $30,000 a year. If you want to be an animator, I know they make quite a bit of money outside of Erie. A lot of that is in California, New York, some bigger, larger cities with bigger industries. That's anywhere to $50,000 to $100,000 a year. And then audio engineers, that's another, you know, opportunity in the AV industry. You know, audio is important to all sorts of media production. Per my research, I think that's in the $30,000 to $70,000 range for audio engineers. So it really does vary based on what, you know, specific industry or specific role you want to take. But there is a lot of opportunities out there.
Okay, great. Thank you. Third question for you, Jake. What sparked your interest in audiovisual technology, and can you tell us about a project that you worked on that you really enjoyed?
Sure. So my interest in technology, you know, period, really started when I was a kid. I always had a knack for movies and video games, and, you know, really anything technology-wise, I just tried to soak in as much as I can. Once I got into high school, I purchased my own video camera. Didn't do anything, you know, really extensive with that in high school, but I did get into installing car audio systems. So really that's where some of my technical expertise kind of came in. I learned the importance of wiring things properly, things like that. And then in 2010, when I had the opportunity to intern at Cat TV, I really started getting into like broadcast studio cameras and video editing software, which back then was all tapes. So it was all, you know, standard definition, and it took just as much time to edit something as it did to record it. So it was all kind of minutes per minute back then. But as I've learned and as technology has advanced, things have gotten a lot easier, and technology has really just advanced so far in the last decade. that things are becoming easier. You really have opportunities right at your fingertips to get started in recording video, taking pictures, recording audio. You can do all that from your phone now. But so yeah, that's really where some of my passion for technology stems from. Second part of the question, I think you asked about favorite project or thing I've worked on. My favorite thing that we do every year as an organization is the Blues and Jazz Festival. Obviously, that's pre-COVID, but that's my favorite thing, hands down, that we record and favorite project to work on. Basically, we drive our mobile production truck down to Frontier Park, and we set up our cameras, tripods, run cabling, and then we have a live video production switcher inside of our truck that we let our volunteers and our staff members direct a 2-day live music festival right from Frontier Park. So that's really my favorite project that we do. It's it's always sunny down there. Everyone's always having a great time, and there's always a lot of bands from locally and from nationally. So it's a great experience.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Brian, we're going to move to you.
Jake said everything, so I can go.
Oh no, you don't get off that easy. All right, so here's my first question for you. You're the chair of the communications department and a senior lecturer at Mercyhurst. You also have an extensive background in broadcast journalism as a producer, anchor, and reporter, like you mentioned in your intro. So what led you to pursue a career in broadcast journalism, and what led to your success while you were there?
Well, I would joke and say that my inability to spell was probably what directed me towards broadcasting. Really, what I was interested in as early as grade school was journalism, print journalism. We had somebody from the Erie Times come and speak to us, and this was at the very kind of at the end, or when journalists, or the start really, of when journalists became kind of like rock stars. We had Woodward and Bernstein in the mid 70s, bringing down Richard Nixon through their reporting. And we had Walter Cronkite and Dan Rather and 60 Minutes and all these great journalists, Peter Jennings, on television. And we watched news at our house, and we got the newspaper. So I read the newspaper. And so I thought that's where I wanted to go. And in fact, helped in 8th grade start a school newspaper, and went on to high school to do a lot of writing and that. But really, my spelling and my grammar weren't that great. And I always struggled with it. And I did an internship in television. One of the things I always enjoyed doing was, as you might be able to tell, is be a ham, is go on stage and do productions. And when I did an internship in television news, I found out, well, it's half performance and half journalism. So what a great combination. And you don't have to spell that well, really. And that's what led me down that path. And it was fun to be able to do. The job is incredibly exciting at times, and every day it's something new and something different, and you can't say that about a lot of occupations.
So that's another great example of try something, try different things, see what you like, and then get the best of everything you have and pursue that, right? So I've heard Morgan talk about that. I've heard you talk about that. Jake, you talked about that a little bit. Kate, you also. So, I mean, that's a nice theme there. So what then, after you left broadcast journalism, you moved over to Mercyhurst University? What prompted that leap for you?
Well, it was, to stay in Erie really is a market that is an entry-level market for broadcasting, and you learn what you want to do and you move on. And I kind of wanted to stay, and I got married, and the job is wonderful and it is great when you're young. When you're older, you need to keep moving on, and that really, and I wanted to do more. My interests were growing exponentially, and the thing with education. And when I was hired at Mercyhurst, someone said to me, you're interested in so many different things. That's perfect for education, because you're going to teach this and this and this, and it's something you're passionate about. So I went and pursued my master's degree from Edinburgh University, and that gave me the entree. There was a position available, and I started at Mercyhurst, and haven't left since. And it's been a wonderful experience.
Excellent. Second question is a little bit different. How has the introduction of technology or the evolution of technology changed the communications industry? And what does it mean for students who are considering a career in the field?
Well, Jake brought a lot about it up, is we've got all of these things, and we have a complete production unit, a broadcast station, a newspaper. We have all of it at our fingertips, in our pockets, all of the time. We can shoot video, we can take pictures, we can do posts. So that has changed a great deal used to be that only rich people could afford professional level video cameras, and publishers could print newspapers if they had the money to do that. But now it really is democratized communication. Now, the problem, though, is that just because you know how to use Facebook and Twitter and TikTok, you make cute little TikTok videos. Yes, there may be short-term profit in that, but if there's no real seriousness in developing your skills, it'll be probably short-lived. I mean, we still haven't seen it yet because we're really at the beginning of it. But my sense is, and I've heard others talk about it, is that it's still back to the basics. Can you write? Can you perform if you want? Are you good at editing? All of those things, whether it is digital or using film or the old school tapes, it all goes back to your skill sets and developing those. Just because you have a passing knowledge of the technology isn't probably going to be in the long term helpful.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Okay, so third question for you, Brian, is, I'm interested in your perspective on what are some of the more promising or in-demand careers in the communications industry today? And can you give some insight on earning potential? And then what kinds of things can students do in high school and beyond to ensure their future success?
Well, let me start with the last one first, and get involved in as many things as you possibly can. Learn what you like to do, learn what you're good at, learn what you're not good at. Take those chances. If the school doesn't have a club to do this, that, or the other, start it. If you can, find some friends, because that's where the more experience you have, the younger you are. When you get up to the college level, you can start to hone those skills and decide, this is the path that I want to go. It's also, I think, really important, and this is something that why our students are successful in the work world, is because we just don't teach them to do one thing. They aren't just videographers. They know how to write. They know how to be good storytellers. They know how to do audio and other things that, as well as social media. All of those skill sets are what employers are looking for. It's gone are the days where they can hire one person to do one thing. The more things that you can do, the more valuable you are. In terms of the salaries, boy, those are all over the place. Jake said, you could start as a videographer at a local television station and make $17,000, $18,000, $19,000, $20,000. Not a lot of money. Might be good enough for Erie, but remember, that's where you're paying your dues. So then you move up to Columbus, or even nowadays, if you're a producer, you can make a jump from Erie to Cleveland, or Erie even to New York City in less time than maybe they did back in the day when I had started. So those jobs, they pay lots of money, and the bigger the market, of course, the more money that you're going to earn doing it. But I think if we're talking the aspect of social media content creation, that's again, we're training a lot of our students to become independent content creators, because freelancing is looking like that's how many places are going. It's not that 9-to-5 job. And a lot of the young people today don't want that. They want to be able to, like Morgan was saying, like create your own hours, do your own thing. And so we're trying to help students develop that. And there, the earning potential is however much time and effort you would like to put in. No, I'm sorry, what was the first
Got
question?
it.
The first question was?
What are some of the more promising or in-demand careers in the communications industry today? And I think you've hit on that.
Content creator. The only thing I don't think we need a lot more of are digital marketing people. That seems to be, we always hear, oh, well, I'm going to be a digital marketing person. Really? Marketing people, that's one thing, but digital marketing, that's usually like something you want to be very cautious and wary of. Just because people put the word digital in front of it, it almost seems like people think it's magic, but it's not digital marketing. It's just marketing. It's not digital journalism. It's just journalism.
Gotcha. All right. Very good. So Jen, do we have any questions in the chat for Brian? Doesn't look like.
No.
Doesn't look
No.
like. Oh, okay. All right. So I'm going to ask you all to just give one more piece of perspective. And here's my question. I'm going to have each one of you answer it. So if you could leave students with one last piece of advice about pursuing opportunities in the arts and communication career pathway, what would that be? And Kate, I'm going to start with you.
One piece of advice that I would give, I really think it comes back to kind of what I said before and what piggybacking on what Brian has said, and I think some of our other panelists have said, is to stay open and keep learning and really explore any path that comes before you. If somebody gives you the opportunity to do something, do it. If it's in your field and it's something that you have interest in, you should do it. Try it out. Did I think that I was going to go into a career as a professional stage manager? No, I never thought I would do that. But when someone asked me, do you want to stage manage my show? I said yes, because you can learn something from every experience that you have. So don't close yourself off by limiting yourself to just some really narrow pathway. Say yes to the opportunities that are presented to you, because you're always going to learn something new.
Great. Thanks, Kate. Jake.
I would say be passionate about anything that you do and buy into what you do. Not just, people try to spread themselves too thin and maybe do too much at once. I think it's important to take each opportunity as it's presented to you, but also make sure that you give it your all. Give each opportunity your all. I think that's something that I've learned over the years, that I think that people forget that it takes a lot of hard work and effort and putting your all into it and being passionate about what you're doing is going to really push you to that next level.
Great. Thank you, Jake. Brian.
I agree with what everyone has said. I would add, be curious. That is, when people ask me about the students I see, they say, oh, well, what's one thing you could change about them? They're some of the most compassionate, kind, and concerned people I've ever met. And that's fantastic. We need that in the world. But the one thing that I don't see enough of is curiosity. Question, research, study, read. And I don't mean study like in a boring sort of way, but pay attention to what's going on around you and in the world. And that will help you. And especially if you want to get into communication, because there are so many applications for that in so many areas. Everybody needs somebody that can tell a good story.
Thanks, Brian. Morgan.
Okay, the last thing I would advise is to not be afraid to ask. So if you see an opening or an opportunity that you think fits you or that you would like to try, ask to be a part of it. And if you're denied, try to get some feedback. Try to ask why and what you might be able to improve on or learn, so that you are more suited for that opportunity in the future.
Great, thanks, Morgan. And Janet.
So the last thing I would say kind of complements what everyone else says. Listen to your mentors, because sometimes they may advise you to do something or try something that you yourself cannot see. So listen to those individuals and be ready for the opportunity that might present itself.
Great, thank you. And with that, that wraps up tonight's panel. Thank you so much to all of our speakers and participants for being part of tonight's discussion. We would like to get feedback on tonight's session, so soon I will be sending out a very brief survey to get thoughts of those who participated, and we do hope you'll take a couple minutes to complete it. And that's it. Thank you again and enjoy your evening. Goodbye, everyone.